Hey there gardeners, Chris here with an update on my potato patch. As you can see here, we've got some absolutely crazy growth from my potatoes, and I thought I'd quickly touch upon a bit of a myth that I came across when I was doing a little bit more research on what to do next essentially. Because when I did my original video, I talked about mounding up around the potatoes, and one of the myths that I actually believed was true was if you do that, you actually get more potatoes growing essentially off the stem of the potato. And as it turns out, that's not true. Now, it doesn't matter, I would say, because what does seem to be true is that you get much better crops from mounding. There's some people I've seen online who did some testing. One of the tests I saw, which was only a small scale, but they kind of tried to get rid of all the more outlying results. And I think they said, probably like a 10 or 20% increase in yield. However, the raw increase in yield that they experienced was more like 40 or 45% or something quite crazy. And part of that may be because you obviously want to keep your potatoes covered so no sun gets on them, because that is very detrimental to them. But I think the greater question I have is because I was thinking I was going to build this bed right up and get the benefits of them growing up around the plants themselves, where I think what I actually needed to do was think a little bit more carefully about the depth of my planting material in the first place, which in this case is straw with a little bit of cow compost or cow poo compost. And so what I perhaps should have done with that in mind is had, I don't know, maybe like an extra 10 centimeters of straw there as the growing medium under the planting to give them a bit more room to branch out under the plants, and not relied upon the extra depth created by the mounding to get me more crop. But at this stage, as you can see, it's too late to worry about it. It'll be something for next year. Perhaps another interesting point, because I mean, to me, these are going quite well, but when I actually went into a local nursery, they had the seed potatoes in stock, and the lady there said to me, oh, yeah, I'm gonna be planting them in the next probably month or 6 weeks. That's when I'm going to start planting them. And I was kind of thinking, man, mine have been in the ground for like 3 or 4 weeks at this stage. So perhaps I can do a second bed and try and improve upon my mistakes, because you can never run out of potatoes. But for the moment, that's kind of where I'm at. I've realized that probably I needed a little bit deeper planting material for the potatoes I put in originally. That's something for next time. I'm going to chuck my cow compost on top as a layer, and I'm going to add extra hay as well. I'm going to do the mounding or the hilling anyway, regardless of anything else. Most of these have grown up far enough that I think it's probably a good time to put those extra layers on and then give it a really good water, and then we'll keep an eye on it and see how it goes. Apart from a little bit of watering, it's very low maintenance. It's an easy thing to grow from what I've seen. Obviously, we'll have to see if I get any crop out of it, because some of my other attempts, like the carrots and even the broccoli, have not gone that well this winter. So perhaps we'll pull all these plants up and there'll be nothing under them. But I don't really think that's the case, to be honest, with potatoes. Okay, so we've got our bag of compost. And this is one of the original 2 bags of compost that I did buy to supplement the hay or the straw or the growing medium that I originally started with, which, as you'll probably remember if you've seen the previous video, was trying to really grow the potatoes in the simplest manner and the cheapest manner possible. And so I went with 1 big bag of mulch, which was a sugarcane mulch, so almost like straw, and then really just one of these bags of cow and compost, which I thought was more like cow manure, but turns out is not the case, which is why I'm just throwing it on, because it's very much just like a pretty general duty compost, I would say. And the reason I'm putting this in is because this will go in, and then we'll put more straw in, and we'll do our hilling or our mounding around the potato plants. which, as I've already mentioned, is apparently not to give them more growing material up the stem of the plant, but it's just to protect the potatoes that are going to be growing under the plant. And of course, it also kind of demonstrates that, and this probably, there'll be people who'll probably argue with this, but you know, there can be something like this, which, with the hilling, which people assume gives you a better crop for a specific reason, and that reason is incorrect. However, the better crop is, from what I've seen with people doing some independent testing, does seem to be fairly true. So, you know, it's a case of it working, but perhaps not for the reasons you might think. And obviously, this corner up here, it's doing much better because all of those potato plants were put in, well, they'd been rooting for quite a while before I put them in, whereas the ones down this side, these are my red potatoes, and those are my purple Russians, I think, something like that. So there is a bit of difference in the varieties. And if this is the first time you've seen my videos on this, I looked up how densely you could grow them and went with the densest possible square foot gardening recommendation, which is probably too dense, but it is what it is. Now, is this the wisest move? I'm not really sure. I'm gonna have to go grab some straw to do the final layer. But part of the reason I'm doing this is because it's been really dry. We had half a year's worth of rain almost in a week, and since then we've had almost no rain at all. I have been watering this garden. I've been watering everything as much as I can, but we certainly are having a pretty dry period as far as rain, and so there's no kind of natural rainfall, no natural water falling on these, giving them the much needed moistness to keep them growing really, really well. So, and to put that into context, I'm giving them a really good water, maybe twice a week. I'm certainly not babying them because we don't have town water. We're on tank water. We've got a limited supply of water, and with it being so dry, not that we're by any means running out, but we're just being careful with our water as always. Okay, so final step, getting this sugarcane mulch, which again, I would kind of equate quite closely with straw, in around these plants. There's actually a couple that have been quite slow growers. So while most of these are a good 20 centimeters tall, which is from what I understand where you want to add the extra layer, some of them are still only just coming up. So we're not doing a super deep layer of straw around all of them. Some of them are a little bit more limited, and we'll just see how we go, really. I would certainly say if you're going to starve to death, if you follow my videos and things go wrong, you probably shouldn't be following my videos, because this is more the fun and the experimentation with a bit of research thrown in than anything else. Okay, so that is a quick update on my potatoes. This is a very, very low effort project, but as I did say earlier in the video, when I talked to a local nursery expert, they mentioned they put their potatoes in much, much later than I'm currently doing. Now, I'm from Sydney, which is a fair bit colder than up here. We're in the subtropics, and perhaps I have jumped the gun in getting these growing. And so I think the answer to that is I'll keep an eye out for some more seed potatoes, and I'll probably put in a second garden bed so that I can really just hedge my bets and see whether I can get another batch of potatoes growing, probably at this stage about a month after the first ones have been in. And that way I'll get another crop with everything going right. And if these are a little bit of a disappointment, I'll be following kind of the more localized expert advice as to when to grow, and we'll see how we go with that. And again, I'll probably do a very similar thing. I'll just use some sugarcane mulch to grow them in a cheap bed, and yeah, we'll see how we go.